Busy portal weekend for the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss got a couple of commitments along the way. We're going to be joined, technology permitting, by David Johnson of Ole Miss 365 to talk about all of the happenings around campus. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. This is the most watched Ole Miss podcast on the internet. Thank you for that. I'm a 10-year veteran of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the world. That is all thanks to fans like you who make all of this possible. Thank you very much for that. On today's show, we're hoping through technology, we're trying to connect with David Johnson from Ole Miss 365 to kind of get the inside information around Oxford, Mississippi for the transfer portal visit weekend. So if we can fight through those technological things, we will have that in. We'll talk about some of the players that have committed, and we will take your comments in the second part of the show. So thank you very much for that. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all season long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every single game day. All right, so while we're waiting, and hopefully, like I said, we can get this technological thing figured out to get him in. So I do apologize for that. But Ole Miss had a big weekend in the transfer portal. And in tomorrow's Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we're going to basically talk about how Lane Kiffin have failed in trying to raid Ole Miss. And we'll explain what we mean by that. But Ole Miss is doing a good job in its own right, a great job. They're currently number 2 in the transfer portal rankings. They've got top 5 transfer portal player ratings average on file. And there's just good players to where they're addressing needs. This isn't a situation to where what Ole Miss fans are used to, there was 9 wide receivers in a transfer portal class. No, there's needs getting met by Pete Golding and by John David Baker and those guys. And Ole Miss has gotten a pretty consistent stream of transfers over the course of this transfer portal. And one that has me really intrigued is Joshua Dye, the running back that is out of Southern Utah University. He is an FCS guy, ran for about 1,800 yards over the course of his last year at Southern Utah. I think they're the Firebirds. Don't quote me on the FCS thing, but I think it's that. Good size, 5'11", 200 yards, excellent speed. I think he was clocked at 22 miles an hour or something like that running. So he obviously has a burst, excellent contact balance. He's somebody that you can give the ball to and be confident that it's going to do what it's supposed to do. I mean, he's a really good player, Joshua Dye. And this running back room that Ole Miss has over the course of this transfer portal cycle is very intriguing, because you have Kewan Lacey, who without a doubt is the starter. He is the guy that is going to be the bell cow for this room. He's a 1,600-yard rusher. He's going to be the star of the room, but you want to take some carries off of him if you can, so he doesn't take quite the beating that he took this year. I do think that the previous staff, and that's all I'll say, is very non-caring on the running back position and tread. They will work them into the ground. If you remember, Quinshon Judkins did the same thing, had a ton of carries. But Kewan Lacey, I think, broke the school record when it comes to carries. You need somebody to take some of those carries off of him. And I like JT Lindsey. If you've tuned into this podcast, you know that I like JT Lindsey and what he brings to the table. Excellent speed, excellent contract balance, excellent vision to the hole. but he still doesn't have the experience as somebody that has played. Behind him, Shakai Mills-Knight, same thing. He's only got 5 or 6 carries as a Division I player so far. You got the true freshman, Demarius Yates, and I get the fact that you don't get experience until you get experience, but it is nice to have somebody in the room that has that experience besides Kewan Lacey. Because if you want to look at spring practice this year, I don't expect Kewan Lacey to do that much. But I think number 2 through number 6 in the running back room is going to be a freaking war to see how that shakes out. Because there's different types of backs. Demarius Yates, the true freshman, he's a home run hitter. He just is. And JT Lindsey is going to be the all-around back, very comparable to a Kewan Lacey guy. And Shakai Mills-Knight is that hulking guy that could be a short yardage back. It's going to be really interesting to see what David Baker does with these running backs. Because he, as a coach, is not averse to running 20 and 21 personnel from time to time. And that is a new thing for the Ole Miss system. We have been very much a 10 personnel, 11 personnel, 12 personnel, even 13 personnel from time to time, but rarely did you get into a 20, 21 personnel type system. John David Baker is not averse to doing that. He's not adverse to using both backs in the backfield at the same time. And when you have somebody like Trinidad Chambliss, if he gets his waiver, which it all looks like we're expecting him to get, this backfield gets very good very quickly when it's Kewan Lacey and JT Lindsey potentially flanked on either side of Trinidad Chambliss. And then when you look at the receiver position for Ole Miss, it's interesting because Johntay Cook looks fantastic. He's a guy, we talked about him. He committed over the weekend. He's a guy that at Texas and at Washington had maturity issues. And everybody talked about it. It was like, oh, you need to be careful with this guy. Then he goes to Syracuse, and it's like the light came on. 50, 60 catches, 600 yards, and a very bad quarterback situation. We will have tomorrow, Jackson Holzer is going to come on the program and talk about Johntay and what is going on there. So it's interesting to see. We're talking about the commitments around the Ole Miss football team and what's going on. We're still waiting on the technology to get through. We started the live stream. Hopefully we can get it figured out with David Johnson. He has not shown up yet to get through all of that. It's just a connectivity problem right now. But if he comes back, we are going to get him in absolutely for sure. You know, Ole Miss just added another star to the roster, and we will talk about that in just a second. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel has given all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs, because right now, college football playoff game days, FanDuel users can get a profit boost that is waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get that profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. So you either ride with the favorites when you think they control the matchup, or you take a shot on the underdog if you feel an upset is coming, or maybe you just build a parlay around the players and moments that you think will decide the game. Apply the profit boost, and after that, go for even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out interest instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football profit playoff boost every single game day. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast in America. That is all due to fans like you tuning into this show. Thank you very much for that. You already live your team every single day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get locked in with Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemess.supercast.com or check out the link down in the show notes. So it's pretty cool, honestly. Everything that is going on with the transfer portal. Ole Miss is currently, according to 247, at number 2 in the transfer portal rankings, and they have a top 5 average rating per commit on their roster. So they're doing quite well. All right. And also, if you comment in, please put where you're commenting from. I do want to shout that out. That's going to be a big deal. So if you comment in the comment, put where you're commenting from so I can shout that out as well. The third segment is going to be yours, and we will go over that. So if you have any questions, hit them up in the chat and I will get them. Again, we are waiting on the technology issues to clear up with David Johnson. He has not made it into this point, but if he does, we're going to bring him straight in and what's going on, because we do have some questions. If not, we'll just have to wait till the next time that he comes on for you to check that out as well. So this Ole Miss team got a commitment from Johntay Cook, and we're going to talk about him a little bit on tomorrow's podcast as well. And I know a lot of this might be repetitive, but the reality is, like, people watch like 4 to 8 videos per month. So there's a lot of information that they don't get, even though you think you're being repetitive. So Johntay Cook is a wide receiver out of Syracuse. Over 50 catches, about 500 yards receiving. We talked about the Steve Angeli quarterback situation for that. And it is really interesting. David just came in. So just a second. Hey, David, sorry about that. Hey, I was just talking about Johntay Cook and what he brings to the table as a slot receiver, and how it's a little bit different than when he was at Texas or Washington, because the light kind of came on at Syracuse.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. And look, I'm just jumping right in here. Johntay Cook has the ability to be a superstar in the Ole Miss offense, especially, and this is critical here, if Trinidad Chambliss is slinging the football, and I think he will be. You saw the steps he took this past season at Syracuse, and how good of a route runner he was, how he utilizes his quickness and speed at the same time. He is a special weapon. I think he can play inside or outside, either one. And, welcome to the red and blue. That's what I've got to say about Johntay Cook, man. An exciting guy. And Stephen, I mean, every time I close my eyes to go to sleep, Pete Golding is doing something else. I'm not going to, this is your show. You tell me who we want to talk about, and we'll go from there. And I'll hush about wanting to jump right into the latest portal commit.
Yeah, speaking of which, a portal commitment just happened, an offensive tackle out of Florida. So let's start there. What do you know about him?
Yeah. I mean, again, a guy that I think is going to be able to come in. Pete has been awesome in the portal, Pete Golding. But he is recruiting for need. And, he's not out there collecting stars. He is going out there getting guys who are simply who can simply plug into the puzzle here and make a complete picture. The offensive tackle from Florida, SEC caliber player. He is a guy that, John Garrison feels like he can fold into the family, into the soup, if you will. And, as he folded in all these ingredients this year, Ole Miss had one of the best offensive lines in the SEC, which means in the country. And you know how I know, Stephen? Because the fans weren't screaming for John Garrison's head.
Right.
Big guys do not get any glory ever. But, if you want to know how good your O-line is doing, look and see how much people are talking about it. And, this is This is a difficult, that's a difficult job to have. Garrison is bringing in, and his name escapes me. I'll have to look it up here. Look, he's bringing in talent. He's bringing in talent that will be able, again, an ingredient into the bowl of soup that is going to have Ole Miss challenging for the playoffs again. And listen to me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're never going to get back to where you were, because you are. We are going to get back. Ole Miss, is challenging on paper right now to have just as good of a 26 season as they had a 25 season. And I don't care what anybody says about that. To me, that is the truth.
Yeah, it's one of those things in the transfer portal that, the transfer portal losses, and we're going to talk about it, like I said on tomorrow's show, was not as bad as everybody predicted it would be. It just wasn't. And there's a couple of players that are, I don't know, out there right now that could go either way. I've heard that Prince William is just a coin flip 50-50 type proposition for what he's going to do. And I heard that if Trinidad comes back, Caden's going to come back. And if that happens, you essentially lost nobody if those two come back.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, that's how I feel about it. That's how I think it's going to shake out, to be honest with you, Stephen. And, I mean, don't you feel it's going to shake out that way?
It feels good. I mean, my whole thing with Prince Will is, I mean, it's obvious that it's looking at LSU. And if LSU gets him, he's by far the best player that they were able to poach. But I think eventually they're going to pay the buyout on him. And we'll see how it goes. But that's just my gut. But everything I heard is saying the opposite direction right now. But in my thoughts, that's kind of where I am right now.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, look, so Trinidad has filed for an injunction in Lafayette County Chancery Court, I believe. It's Chancery.
Which, by the way, whenever they read the history, the bio of that judge, I was like, oh my goodness, Trinidad could not have a better judge.
No, yeah, well, okay. All right. I'm with you there. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know really what to say about that, Stephen, but
anyway, whenever he said that he played quarterback in 1960 something at Northwest Community College, it's like, okay. It's going to be fine.
He's going to get a fair shot at this. And I believe, number one, it's good for Ole Miss. Check that box. Number two, it's good for college football. Check that box. And I know we're not talking about Trinidad, but I think he's coming back. Therefore, as you pointed out, I think Caden Lee's coming back. Umami Ellen, I think he's coming back too. And as you pointed out, what if you really lost to the portal? Nothing. Pete did an excellent job. Pete, being Coach Golding, did an excellent job maintaining his roster throughout this 2 weeks of chaos and building his roster up. And I'm going to hush and let's talk the portal.
Yeah, and Walker Jones in the portal and in retention, the Grove Collective and those guys did amazing work this year. They deserve all the flowers. And also, before we take a break, our last break, I do want to say that Ole Miss plays Auburn on Tuesday. People need to give this basketball team the love and flowers that they didn't think they were going to have to do, because these guys are starting to turn the corner a little bit. And the gates open to the pavilion 2 hours before tip-off. That game against Auburn, there's going to be a chance for a lot of revenge in that game. Anyway, we're going to come back with David Johnson in just a second and answer a little bit of your viewer questions about the transfer portal. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle absolutely everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every single deduction. If you can upload your documents, go about your day and get updates right in the TurboTax app, yeah, you should do it. It's a huge time saver and gives a real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. And for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by that local TurboTax expert for just $150, all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th, take taxes off your plate, and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, David, one thing, we're going to take some viewer questions. We're going to talk about the transfer portal for about the last 10 minutes of what's going on. I'm telling you, it's pretty good. And we're going to kind of work at this a little bit, and we're just going to start easy. This is Gary Grizzard says, do you like this portal class, and can this team make the playoffs next season? This is softball, David.
Yeah, like we just said, I love this portal class. Man, can they make the playoffs? Absolutely, 100%. If Trinidad is granted another season, or should I say win, this is a top 5 preseason team, Stephen. Yep. Without him, I think it's a top 15 team. With him, he's a top 5 team. And Trinidad, I think, as you've said before, is the leading candidate for the Heisman going into next year. I believe that to be true. So, yes, 100%.
Yeah, and the irony is Trinidad will be the leading candidate for the Heisman, but the quarterback that will get the hype after it would be Arch Manning, which those two quarterbacks would play. Yeah, I mean, because Arch Manning's going to get the hype, and by the end of the year, he was a pretty good quarterback. He was good. So we will see what it looks like there. All right. Rex Thompson says, hotty toddy from Oliver Springs, Tennessee. Like to see the Rebels get another offensive lineman and a couple of linebackers. What do you think in the transfer portal is left? Because there's the holes on this roster is getting smaller. I do think tackle, they do need to get another tackle, somebody that they can count on to play. Although I do think Therese Davis and Carius Kern kind of can fill that need, but you want a little bit of insurance. I think another linebacker would be important. I think they're fine in the secondary. They're definitely fine at running back. Wide receiver seems to be taken care of, and tight ends I think offensive line for me, offensive tackle specifically is the spot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, look, here's the thing you have to keep in mind. The portal is closed. It doesn't mean we're done with the transfer portal. As you could see today with the commitments that rolled in, there are guys out there still deciding where they're going to be. So we're going to be talking about the portal all the way into the spring, really and truly. So, it's not over. It's very important, I think, that they get the right fit. I would start with the offensive line. And, I love the philosophy, we need this, but we'll take the best available. And I really think that's where Ole Miss is. Like, look, if there is another wide receiver out there that will give them depth, they're going to take that receiver. But if you want to get surgical about it, I agree with you. I would go offensive tackle. Yes.
Yeah, that's the whole. Everything else is a luxury piece. And, with the addition of Johntay Cook, which we just talked about last segment, like Caden Lee, we do think he comes back if Trinidad comes back. That's the word all over town. But Caden Lee becomes a luxury piece at that point because he was able to get Johntay.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. And, Caden Lee, look, statistically in 25, Caden wasn't really as important as he was in 24. But man, oh man, this guy's got superstar written all over him. And I believe he's going to be catching the ball in Rebel Red and Blue in 26.
All right. Elmer 1712 says, thank you, Stephen, for keeping us up to date on this. To thank David as well. It is very exciting news about our team. He's from Picayune, Mississippi. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking visits. I enjoy being on camera. I mean, it's just one of those things that it is. So yeah, I'm having fun doing this is my point. So I'm glad you enjoy it as well. So James McDonald says
Picayune is the home. Picayune's the home of Darby McCraney, who is one of our writers here at Ole Miss 365. And you got to love this to do it. I didn't mean to jump on you there, Stephen. Oh. You got to love this to do it, or you're insane, one or the other, because it's 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Whenever I first started back, when I got out of the Navy and I come back, and David Cutcliffe kind of recruited me to be on staff up there, one of the first things he said to me was, do you want to do this or do you have to do this? Because there's a distinction. If you can't live without this, you are not going to succeed in it. And he wanted to know exactly, did I want to do it or did I have to do it? And what we do this is kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So question for you from Jeremy Cagle. When are they making a ruling on Trinidad? When do you expect to hear?
Yeah. You're asking me to predict the court system.
That's right.
Year? I mean, I think that I think this is going to get a lot.
Injunction can be in the next month or two.
Yeah, it can be.
And that's the important part of this, by the way. Anybody's watching, the injunction's the important piece of this for Ole Miss and Trinidad playing next year. The court case is going to happen, but it doesn't matter what happens at that point.
That's right. But here's the thing. I would say you're stepping in a grass full of rattlesnakes. The NCAA could easily go, okay, you have an injunction, play him. But if we win this case against you, Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss, every game he plays in, you must forfeit that game. And that's the thing that is the scary part. I think we're going to win. The injunction is going to be issued. Trinidad, the NCAA cannot do anything, but I do think there's a caveat to watch for in that they're going to go, we're going to appeal. And if we win in the games he plays in, you're going to forfeit. And I think that's something to look at.
Well, it's something to look at, but it just doesn't matter because it doesn't mean the games on the field didn't happen. If Ole Miss went 16-0 next year and won a national title, and then 3 years down the road, and the NCAA said, no, you didn't, every Ole Miss fan is going to say, yes, we did.
Yeah. Well, pardon me, but there'd be one of those middle fingers that popped up right there real quick for us.
So bus driver says from Oxford, Mississippi, I think we're going to be better than last year with this class. We're definitely going to be better in the secondary. Pete Golding could not play man coverage last year. He said that is not going to happen this year.
No. And look, you saw they attacked the portal with gusto, particularly in the secondary, to fix those issues. I do think this team in 26 is going to be a little bit more defensive oriented. Not to say you won't watch a fast-paced offense that scores a lot of points, but I think you're going to see an uptick on the defensive side of the ball to go with what John David Baker is going to do on the offensive side.
All right, so James McDonald asked one question. This will be the last question of the show. Any word on the Clemson commit linebacker? What do you know about him?
Tom Farrelly. I believe his first name is Tom.
Luke.
Oh, Luke Farrelly. Yeah, there you go. Nothing yet. Okay. Our ears are to the ground. I think he would solve part of the remaining portal piece that we were talking about. As of right now, I don't have anything new for you.
Yeah, the important thing when it comes to Luke Farrelly is Clemson thinks he's gone. He might be gone. They're reporting and acting like he's gone. Ole Miss hasn't said anything, announced anything, done anything because they can't, because he's not in the portal yet, because he's signed or whatever. So Ole Miss is playing that as well. I figure by Wednesday we will know about Luke.
Yeah, and I'll caution you against what you're learning from what the Clemson sites are reporting, because they spent all last week telling you we were wrong. He was not going to be in Oxford. So, it's worth what it's worth. And I mean, I guess if we wanted to, we could jump out there and say right now, yeah, he's coming, but we don't know that. We do not know that for a fact. So,
all right. Real quick before we get out of here, Michael Reed from Lampasas, Texas says Mekhi Frazier is a done deal. Have you heard anything on Mekhi Frazier?
Yeah, I think he's right. I think
that's another. They're going to have like 8 running backs.
Yeah, well, you know what though, man. Look, the kid we got this afternoon from Southern Utah. Oh my God, have you had time to watch his film?
Yeah, he's explosive. Ooh. It might be FCS, but he's explosive.
Man, ran for over 1,800 yards. Every time they handed him the ball, he was in the end zone. 28 touchdowns. I'm ready for spring ball. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, before we get out of here, I was talking about that. I don't think Kewan Lacey is going to have much run at all in spring ball. I mean, he's going to work a little bit, but not much. But I think 2 through 6 or 2 through 7 on that running back depth chart is going to be a war.
It's going to be just like we watched with Quinshon Judkins a couple of years ago, where if you breathed on Quinshon during spring ball, you were running gassers at the end of practice. Nobody's going to go as far as to breathe on Kewan Lacey this spring, unless Frank Wilson is an absolute maniac. And I don't think
he might be because he coached under Ed Orgeron. So remember, I was on the Ed Orgeron staff where they had 100-play scrimmage during a rain delay against Wake Forest. So Frank Wilson was on that staff as well. So I'm just saying, big deal.
Ed didn't want to. My favorite story about Ed, real quick, was Chuck Brownsville tells the story. He's trying to meet Ed Orgeron right after Ed gets the job here. And he goes in, and Ed had ran out of dip. So instead of dip, Ed takes the lid off the coffee machine and is dipping Folgers straight up. Just sticking Folgers in his mouth, dipping coffee. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Let's roll. That's Chuck's story, by the way.
Yeah. All right, David, what do you got going on at Ole Miss 365 tonight,
Man, listen, we're on the portal left and right. We've got this show live on 365. The latest edition of the Players Lounge podcast with Sean Holiday is out. He's got a couple of, I'm not good at this, famous TikTokers on his show. John Seaton is one of them, and Cola is the last name. Spencer Cola is the other guy. I'm a little older than the TikTok crowd, but they're on there talking Ole Miss ball and going to school at Ole Miss. And, but look, we're kicking butt, kicking tail. I want to thank all of you who have found a happy place, so to speak, at OleMiss365.com. Look, we're going to report the bad news when we have to, but we're going to tell it like it is. And let me tell you something. The last podcast you did where you explained how Lane Kiffin was trying to break the Ole Miss program in half. He's failed with that. Mm-hmm. It was one of the best shows I have ever heard by anybody. You hit that issue head on and knocked it out of the ballpark, Stephen. And kudos to you. And look, guys, that's the kind of content we're going to have at Ole Miss 365 while being Ole Miss fans, as Stephen's hat suggests. Mm-hmm. My hat is somewhere around here. I'd have it on.
Yeah, I got this hat. The one thing is, just before we get out of here, just so everybody knows, apparently the company that made these, this is like the 90s and 80s era hats, whatever, they got resurrected essentially, and they advertised with Locked On, and they sent me this one and one that says Ole Miss, and then this old circle hat that everybody remembers from back in the day. And I freaking love them. So that's the reason I always do the podcast with that, because it reminds me of honestly when I was 17 years old and going through everything that was happening. Anyway, David, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We will talk to you next weekend to find out what's going on in the transfer portal as well. But thank you, bud.
Hey, thank you, Stephen.
All right. Thanks for tuning into the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk transfer portal all week long, so make sure you subscribe and follow the show so we can get you all the latest episodes. We're on all the social channels, so check that out as well. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Ole Miss ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonolemmiss.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you find a second listen, either Locked On SEC or Locked On College Football is available. Transfer portal's going. Pete Golding looks like he might be the real portal king after all. We will talk to you later. Hotty toddy, everybody.